Today's team preview is the Denver Broncos. And I don't want to blow the lead immediately here, but the way that I evaluate teams, the way that I measure success, particularly against the spread, but overall team success and potential, this Denver Broncos team checks out every box that I would look for an ascending team in the NFL. And I think this is a team that very easily could become one of the more feared programs in the AFC, the AFC West, perhaps in the NFL in seasons to come. Now, that is for very few specific reasons, which I will get to. And I will say that across the NFL media, the analyst community and perspectives from NFL experts, the Denver Broncos are a hot topic. Right? I'm not saying anything really crazy here. I'm not making like a super hot take that the Broncos have high potential. That being said, I think that I see it a little more seriously and a little bigger than others. And I'm going to get to the very specific reasons why I really think the Broncos can have a breakout year as far as an AFC title contender goes. Now, first and foremost, if you've read my pieces before, if you listen to any of my podcasts or these posts here on Substack, you would know that the coach and quarterback tandem is the most important aspect in my power ratings and the way that I look at games week to week. Of course, there are other factors that come into play, whether it's weather, whether it's the opponent's proclivities, whether it's the team's defense and leaders on either side of the ball, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, of course. But coach and quarterback are at the top of the list for good reason, right? We've seen it in most Super Bowl tandems and most successful teams against the spread. Coach and quarterback make the biggest difference. In this case, I love that we have Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning coach, rejuvenated in a new town, now a few seasons in with the Denver Broncos. And clearly the team is starting to believe in what he brings to the table as we see them ascending, making the playoffs, and I expect even more from them this season. But he has a quarterback in Bo Nix that I would argue, kind of like Sean Payton and Drew Brees in their Super Bowl year for the Saints and for their many winning seasons in New Orleans, is a great relationship, right? It's symbiotic in the sense, and it's probably even better, the fact that you have Sean Payton as a seasoned coach, a proven coach, and Bo Nix is a young kid. This is only going to be his second year in the NFL. And that works because Bo Nix is a hard worker. He's very teachable. And he listens, right? So on both sides, this is a hardworking, good dynamic that kind of feeds off each other. Everything points to that reality. And that is how you win against the spread. That is how you win long-term in the NFL over seasons and even this season. Now, it makes it even better if some other things come into play, which we will get to. Let's look a little bit at their performance last season. Offensively, they were top 10 in points, top 9 in explosive plays, top 9 on fourth down and red zone conversion rates as well, top 10 in turnover margin. So they took care of the ball, showed discipline as a team. Again, more coaching credit there. I think a simplified offense helped with that too. Like Bo Nix in his first season, a lot of their marks are average on offense overall, like yards and production wise, but they made the plays when they needed to make the plays. And I think they got even better during the offseason. Now, this is a top 2 offensive line according to Pro Football Focus. I agree with that. It's very deep. They're healthy. They were very effective last season. They brought in Evan Ingram, tight end. We know his athletic ability. We've seen him on the Giants and the Jaguars. Adds another interior or center field threat for Bo Nix. Brought over some more wide receiver depth as well, and of course a big acquirement. No, a big acquisition is J.K. Dobbins, who the potential is there. We saw that right away when he was drafted by the Ravens. Subpar last season with the Chargers, but I think this is, behind this offensive line, behind the Sean Payton system, I like J.K. Dobbins and his fit here as just another explosive playmaker for the Broncos offense. Defensively, an ascending unit in every way. top 10 in most major categories last season, number 1 in red zone defense, number 2 against the run, and top 10 against the pass. No team had more sacks. In my opinion, they're one of the deepest, if not the deepest, front sevens in the NFL. And they made some great signings on top of it. They bring in Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga, the safety from San Francisco. Two great players. Obviously, especially Dre Greenlaw comes from a great background there. Obviously dealt with some injuries in the past few seasons too. But now he comes to an already top-rated defense, brings that leadership, kind of cements their linebacking crew. And their secondary is also very deep. So this is one of the deepest rosters defensively in the NFL. PFF rates their defensive line 8th overall, but again, one of the deepest. They re-signed Zach Allen too, 8.5 sacks last season, kind of the leader of that front. There's not a lot I don't like about the Broncos defense on all 3 levels. This is a very good roster, and they've proven that they can make the stops and do what they need to do against a very difficult schedule in the AFC West. Their schedule this season, I would rate it as mid. I think they start 3-0. They got the Titans, Colts, and Chargers. The Chargers is obviously going to be more challenging. That's a divisional opponent, but I think they beat them. I think that they are ahead of the Chargers now in the AFC West. And the Chargers, a team last season who went to the playoffs, got kind of embarrassed in that first round of the playoffs right away. Didn't do a lot to change their roster in the offseason. So I like the Broncos' position in the AFC West far better, and I like far better the direction they're going and the moves they're making than I do the Chargers. I give them 6 guaranteed wins overall. Titans, Colts, both New York teams, Vegas, and Jacksonville, which means if they go 3-3 in their division, this is a fringe playoff program already. The other teams they've faced are Cincinnati, Philly, Dallas, Washington. So they face the NFC East, Green Bay, and Houston. I think at least 2 to 3 wins in that group. So already you can see I'm strongly leaning to over 9.5 wins this year. Again, I think you could argue that this is a mid to easy schedule, at least compared to some other slates in the AFC, like the AFC North has to face the NFC North. That's really tough. And that this feels like a 10-win team. Now, do I think there's still value? Of course, it's going to be juiced at most books for them to reach 10 wins. Not as much, but I have some stronger bets that my top clients, my paying subscribers here on Substack will receive after viewing this video. Overall, I give them a rating of 85. And again, strong lean to the over. I think this is easily a 10-win team. Again, I don't like to have too much in my futures portfolio, but I think in this case, we can aim a little bit bigger on the Denver Broncos, and we could expect a little bit more than most programs. Just, if, for example, if I were to bet on multiple things for the Denver's future this season, that wouldn't make much sense, in my opinion, right? You can bet on their wins. You can bet on making the playoffs. You can bet on winning the conference, the division, the Super Bowl. If they get 10 plus wins, I think this is going to be an extremely dangerous team in the playoffs. So I think there are some better wagers that we can make here. Again, with a quarterback and coach dynamic as strong as what we're seeing in Denver, and a defense that could be the best in the NFL this season, I have a very strong case to make that the Denver Broncos are going to be one of those teams to look out for, to bet on throughout the season, probably later in the year too, as things come together more and more. And keep in mind, Sean Payton said something very interesting. He said, in my coaching career, I've only coached a few teams, a few rosters that I know could win a Super Bowl, and this is one of them. Very interesting, coming from a guy who doesn't, I wouldn't say Sean Payton just shoots from the hip and says stuff like that very often. I know some people don't love his energy or the way that he delivers messages. He certainly said some controversial things in the past, but he's an old school ball coach who has an effective way of coaching, and especially in improving an offense. And now we're seeing this defense is really getting built in a way to last and win long term too. So really like the Broncos, really like what Sean Payton is doing here. For my paying subscribers, you'll see a few bets below this video. Next up is the Detroit Lions.